Tamara, welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here to share these nuggets with your team.
Yes, ditto. So I'd love for you to start with telling us a little more about what it is that you're doing right now.
So right now, my greatest joy, my newfound love, is helping women and a few good men pass the PMP certification the first time. So that is the project management professional certification, and I help individuals pass it the first time and within 30 days. But everybody thinks it's about the piece of paper, and really it is not. It is about teaching others project management, all the knowledge areas, and more importantly, decreasing this wage gap, especially with women. As we know, men make a dollar and we make 60, 70% on that dollar. And when we have the certification, the confidence, and the tools, we're able to help decrease that wage gap. So that's my newfound love.
I love that. So when you say newfound love, um, it sounds like you've done other things and they probably are related to project management. Can you tell us a little more about how you got here? What's the origin story?
So, a funny story. I have a journalism degree. I went to school for mass communications. I wanted to be a sports reporter. But even before I got out of school, I realized I did not want to do that. And I was like, what am I going to do? So I took one of those exams and it tells you what you should do based on your personality type. And it said I should be a lawyer. And I'm like, I don't want to do that either. And so my aunt told me to go into technology. And that's what I did. And when I say technology, I'm not saying I'm coding or doing anything like that. I started off in telecom. And so I started off as a project coordinator. I quickly moved up to a project manager, and I did IT, meaning the SAP infrastructure, ERP type of software applications from beginning to end. And I manage those type of projects. In addition to that, I do infrastructure, which is construction management, facilities. You see my hot pink hard hat. So I can do construction as well, meaning managing a project from beginning to end. So I've been doing this for 20 years. And when I say project management for 20 years, telecom companies, IT, I work for the federal government, I work for the major airline, I've even worked for a law firm. So you name it, companies need project managers. And that's why I am preaching the project management methodology.
Wow, that is a lot of different industries, a lot of different areas that you have worked in, and which is amazing, and must have given you a lot of different perspectives. So, from being told that your match is a lawyer to kind of the journalism, I can see the communications and how it translates into project management. You know, there are probably a lot of updates and communicating with a lot of different teams. So, are you happy that you went that route, that you kind of followed your aunt's advice?
I mean, this is the only thing I could ever see myself doing. Like I said, it has project management has so many knowledge areas. Like you said, communication. Communication, ironically, is 90, 100% of project management. And early on, before imposter syndrome was a thing, like in the 90s or early 2000s, I was like, why am I moving up so quickly? And they were like, Tamara, that's because you can communicate with the C suite, with the tech team, with the people on the ground, with the trainers. They're like, you keep this thing moving. They were like, when you're sick and go on a vacation, nothing happens. Although I would set everything up, they're like, nothing's moving. And so early on in my career, I understood what I brought to the table. And then we mentioned the legal part. Procurement, that's contracts. And so in project management, there's so many knowledge areas. We have quality, we have risk. So we have those hard skills and we have those power skills, which are the softer skills. And so they all equal project management.
I love that, hard skills and power skills.
Yes.
And I can feel the power. That's amazing. So you kind of made that choice, and that was the right and aligned choice for you because I can feel your enthusiasm and kind of the spark and the passion for it.
Thank you.
Yes, and it's sometimes can be rare because people can pick. careers based on what they see around, influence, like you said, from family, other people kind of that are close to us or that we see modeled around us. But sometimes it can be a miss, it can be not matching our own
Yeah.
strengths, our own kind of built-in natural mechanisms. So tell us about what is project management in layman's terms, and when you were doing this with your hands, it seemed like an orchestra conductor.
That's exactly what it is. It is, excuse my language, it is getting shit done. So that's what project management is. So literally, you have an initiative and you need to get it done, whether it's a wedding, an event, it's software application, building a facility. Everything needs project management. Right now, some of the fastest growing industries that require project management is healthcare. With the rising cost of healthcare, they need project managers. So I have doctors, I have pharmacists, I have nurses that get the certification. The other spectrum is educators. Some people think, education, they don't need project managers. Absolutely. To orchestrate the school year, that is a project. It has a beginning and an end. The new curriculum, managing the buses and the children and the lunches and just everything that it goes into that every year, that's a project. And so we need to think of things differently when we think of project management. So in my eyes, everything's a project. Everything.
Yeah, that is so true, right? Even at your home, like from the day from beginning to end. So it's an invaluable skill, um, anywhere you apply it. That's amazing.
Absolutely.
So, did you have a favorite, like in terms of like the different industries that you've supported and different projects?
Oh, you can't ever say you have a favorite child, so you can't say you have a favorite. I will say the federal government, because I knew nothing about government. And going in, that's the beauty about project management. You don't have to know the industry because they want you to come in and manage the project from beginning to end, get to know the stakeholders. So before I got to the federal government, GSA, I was used to doing, buildings and companies that close at 5 o'clock. Well, one of my first project was a hospital, the VA. And I'm like, "Oh my god, I'm freaking out because guess what? The hospital never closes. So we can't shut down the system and bring it back up." And so just going in with the hospitals, making sure that the technology, first of all, met the needs of the patient, but also from the time you make an appointment to the pharmacy, to the ER, to, the physical therapy, to the clinics, the mental health facilities, making all that technology talk. When I did that, I was like, oh, I have, yes, done this. And then my second favorite is working for the airline. So that's another myth, is that you have to know the industry. You do not. And one of the reasons that Delta Airlines recruited me, because I did not apply, is because I did not know the airline industry. I want to say that again.
That's
I did.
counterintuitive.
Yeah, it is. And the reason why, on a lot of these projects, they don't want you to know the industry because they want you to come in and ask a lot of questions, and this is not business as usual, and they want you to think with a different lens.
So it's interesting that you were talking about the industries and the roles, the project management roles, sometimes not requiring the past background, and if anything, not looking for or looking for somebody with a fresh perspective. Because I've been in talent acquisition for over 15 years, and so much of the time I see the other narrative where the hiring leaders are looking for specific industry experience. So I wanted to ask you, how often do you see, especially people who are interested in project management might have some experience in it, but not in, all the industries. How often do you see people being open to hiring somebody from a different industry, and, how to overcome not having that experience?
So that's a great question. So the first thing is the self. Like, you need to know, the applicant needs to know what they're bringing to the table. And so, for instance, in technology, all this software application. So I'm a SAP super user, been using it for 20 years with probably 5 or 6 different major organizations. A lot of my clients use Epic or Workday. I can PeopleSoft, Salesforce. We can go on and on. So that's what they bring to the table in addition to their project management skills. And let's say it's risk management or procurement. So once you know as an applicant what you bring to the table, that's what you highlight because nobody has 100% of the requirements. And so you really do as an individual need to know I can come in and manage that project effectively. On the employer's part, I will say that projects or companies that have failed because they're doing business as usual, now they're scratching their head like, okay, what business as usual, bringing in people with the industry experience is not working. Like you said before, we need a different lens. And those are the projects or the industries or the companies you want to go into because now they're open. They have failed, they have bumped their head, and now they want an expert to come in and manage their projects. So those are the companies that I tell my people to look out for.
I love that. And tell us, so let's say somebody's listening and is now their curiosity is piqued, that this project management could be a thing. They can see how in their past, they have done project
Yeah.
management because let's face it, I mean, in most corporate environments, uh, especially if you've been in leadership positions or led projects, you have done project management most likely. What are
Yeah.
the prerequisites or what are the skills that you see as the top skills that a project manager has to have, or somebody considering project management or kind of more doubling down and focusing on that what are the attributes you think that the person should have to be successful?
So this is a loaded question, and I cringe because I really don't want to say what they need most of all. Because here's the thing, like we said before, project management, they're like 12 knowledge areas, 12 skills you can have. So if you're an engineer or you're a techie, the quality QA, QC, lean type of skills. My favorite one is risk management. Also procurement, contract management. But then on the softer power skills, guess what? HR people is 42% of the new PMP exam. I'm going to say that again. People management is 42% of the PMP exam. So if you know HR, people management, stakeholders, you have more than half of the skills anyway. And so, like I said, with project management, there's not a one size fit all. You can come in having 50 or 60% of the skills. You can learn the other ones or hire somebody that accentuates the other skills. So let me give an example. I manage $150 million. People think I'm just an expert in Excel and this PowerPoint. People think I'm an expert in Excel and Microsoft Project and all of this. I know Excel a little bit, Microsoft Project, and we haven't used it in a while. We use other tools. But guess what? I have a project coordinator that's a beast in that. And so we don't have to do everything as a project manager. So that is really a myth. And the qualifications to get the PMP certification, you only need 3 years of experience if you have a degree. That's 36 months. Most people cardinals are more than 36 months. So you have the experience. And then I help people identify the projects that they use on their application. So let me say this, those other duties as assigned, those are projects. You're voluntold to do something. And let me be very clear. PMI never said that you have to have the title as project manager. A lot of people think that if we had to have the title as project manager, nobody would be able to take the certification because 8 out of 10 people in my boot camps don't have the title because PMI wants people with the softer skills and the more techie people to become project managers. You want a good blend, you want a mix, you want a diversity in your on your project management team. So everybody qualifies for PMP certification in my eyes.
I love that. And PMI is Project Management Institute.
That is correct. Yes.
Okay, I want to spell out the acronyms because people might not be as familiar with them. But maybe not so much kind of the qualifications or those skills, right, that are learnable, or the different areas of expertise or focus or subject matter expertise that you can kind of pick up and become, but more on kind of the attribute level, right? For example,
Yes.
I would think that you have to have this ability to deal with people. If you hate dealing with people, project management to me does not sound like a good career option, because there is this element of essentially what we could call herding cats. There's a lot of moving pieces. It's like a lot of communicating, right? Holding people accountable, engaging with people many people I'm sure, who are not on the timeline that they need to be, and
Yes.
prompting and understanding. It takes a lot of patience and people interaction.
It does, but I will say this because I deal with a lot of introverts and tech people, and that's not necessarily their forte on the outside, but they're very good at communicating on a keyboard or behind the scenes. And so when we think of communications, a lot of people think outward because I'm the loudest person in the room. I communicate more effectively, but in my experience, that's just not accurate because I have to rely on like I said, my tech team, my highly skilled engineers that are mostly introverts. And so they just communicate a different way. They do the reporting, they do the dashboards, and they help me with the timelines. So that is one thing that I have learned is you need people that communicate all different ways. And ironically enough, we talked about that last night on the call, and I could see all the eyes light up because I have mostly introverts in my class that are in project management, but they're not getting the salary. They're not getting the accolades because they're behind the scenes. And they like being behind the scenes, but they have a lot to contribute. So I'm teaching them how to contribute and not have to be so boisterous like myself and just out there. So we do have project management tools to help with that. But I'm
Anything,
glad you brought that up because a lot of people think that.
anything else that you would kind of point out as key, you know, dynamics, right, that somebody would expect if, as a part of their day to day, if they got into project management?
So I would say if you like change, if you like doing different things or the same thing a different way, project management is for you. And so I was telling the class last night when I was actually practicing project management, I'm a very girly girl, so I would have on my suit and my stilettos, but also in my car I had some flats and some boots and some goggles, some protective goggles, and of course my hard hat because I didn't know if I was going to be at the desk all day doing meetings, reports, presentations, or if I was on my way to the office and had to make a U-turn and go to the construction site, And so that's what I love about project management because it's not a one size fit all. And if you like that type of change and, variety, then I would say project management is for you. And like I said before, I like the harder skills and the softer skills. So let me give you my favorite skill in project management. Risk management. I
Let's
love I'm sorry, what did you
let
say?
let's go for it. Let's talk risk management.
Yes, risk management because people shy away from risk. They're like, "Oh, it's too risky," and people think of risk being a bad thing, but risk is really opportunity. And like you said before, risk is identifying what could potentially happen and reduce that. So, my beloved New Orleans, I went to Xavier University, and I use that as an example. Building in New Orleans, well, you have to understand hurricanes, floods, digging below sea level. But that doesn't mean we don't do business in New Orleans. That means that you understand the risk. And before you get started, you bring in professionals to mitigate that. And so a lot of people would shy away from risky projects when actually it's an opportunity. And so that's why I like risk management.
That's a great perspective. And yeah, because risk can also seem boring.
And it's funny you say that because in every project I get in trouble with risk because I'm bringing up something like, Tamara, that's not a big deal, or don't bring that up. But I'm like, oh, it's going to come up later. So we have got to address the elephant in the room. And one of those skills is being proactive and have intuition to know that this is going to come up later, maybe 6 months to a year. So we have got to bring it up now, at least to acknowledge it. And so, yeah, I love risk management for that reason.
Love that. And the construction, tell us a little more about construction project management. Is it still tied to technologies and systems or something completely different?
So it really depends, but yes, because if you think about building a facility, commercial real estate, of course, you have the infrastructure, the concrete, the drawings, that part. We do the walkthroughs, but think about what's going in there. Are we having residential tenants? Is it going to be commercial? Do you need cyber security in a lot of these buildings? You need the walls, the infrastructure, the actual physical building to be built with the cabling and certain wiring inside, and you have to retrospect it before you put the walls up. So if anybody has built a house, we know that once they close up the walls, it is so much more money to go in the walls. And so your technology, your infrastructure has to go in the walls first. And so that means you have to design the software to go in the walls to match the hardware. So that's my way of not getting too technical, but it all works together. It really does. You have to have the full picture of what this facility is going to be used for.
I love that. Well, thank you for sharing that. And it really kind of draws a better picture, kind of a more relatable picture. So it really sounds like you have been focusing on technology projects. Are there any other areas or domains or outside of technology where project management is useful or is done kind of on this professional level where it can be a career?
Absolutely. So let's say sales and marketing. When a product launches, you best believe sales is in there and marketing is in there way before it's time to sell the product. So let's use the iPhone or Droid. Don't want to, be tied to one technology, but Apple has one sale a year, I believe. It's around September. You best believe that the marketing team, that's a huge project. And they don't start in September. They start at the beginning of the year. What is the new iPhone? And they start with what is going to be the new features, the functionalities to implement in September back to school. We're recording this in January. The Super Bowl is coming up. The Super Bowl, I mean, all these sporting events, the NBA finals, those are projects. Events are projects. When they go to the different cities, and what we have to understand is everything is a project because it has a beginning and an end, and
Mhm.
you have to execute. So we can't just look at it as tech. And so, like I said before, education, that is a project. Let's break it down to curriculum. I have a lot of teachers, and they're like, "Well, I haven't worked on project." Yes, you have. Have you been in charge of new curriculum coming out for the school? They have. Well, you have to research the curriculum companies, narrow it down to maybe 3 to 5, implement it maybe into 3 to 5 schools. And once the kids' reading scores get up, implement it throughout the school district. That's a project. In this current boot camp, I have quite a few people into the healthcare field, and they're doing clinical trials. That's a project. One is doing diabetes drugs, cancer drugs. Those are projects. You have a beginning and an end on what type of cancer, and then they have the groups where they're testing it out. And then once they implement it, they get the results, and then they go to the next phase of the pharmaceutical. You see how that's a project? It has a beginning and an end.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Now you're reminding me, clinical project management. Yes, yes.
Yes, so everything's a project. Every single thing's a project. A book launch. I'm writing a book now. That is a huge project. I didn't realize how huge it is, but just launching it from the time that you have the idea all the way to sales. And let me tell you, they're thinking of sales before you even write the book. How many followers? Who's going to help you sell? That is a project because in order to get people to buy it, you have to think with the end in mind. That is a huge project. So everything is a project.
That is a huge project. What is your book going to be about?
Of course, project management and getting it done. And it's ironically enough, it's going to be a less technical book because what I want the readers to understand is everything we do is a project. I get a lot of people that a lot of women especially that have taken time off from work. And they're like, "Uh-oh, how am I going to get the experience to fill out this application?" Well, guess what? The PTA, all the fundraisers, the 5K walks, the PTA events, those are projects. It has the beginning and the end, and the scope is to raise money for XYZ. That is a project.
Everything is a project. I love it. And I can't wait for your book. It will be awesome. I think it will
Everything.
help a lot of people. And kind of to your point that you're bringing up about whether there's a gap or maybe somebody has been in like HR, TA, sales, maybe marketing, teaching, you name it. How do they apply to that first project management job? You know, now that they're thinking, yeah, that's very true, right? I have already the foundational, a lot of the aspects, but how do they update their resume? How do they word things to actually get an interview for a project?
That is That is a great question. In my current boot camp and in every boot camp, they're asking at the first and the second day. So a project manager's resume looks totally different than everyone else's. We have to, at the very top, for each position, identify at least two or three projects. So most people put the duties that they do. No, no, no. So for instance, if your company is doing a mass hiring for an initiative, or let's say you are going into a new market where you need to hire 50 employees, different categories, that's a project because they're bringing everybody to the table, and we need to set up a new facility, or we're entering this new market and we need to hire from the executives all the way to trainers, everybody to implement this new city. That's a project. And so they have to be able to illustrate, I hired or, implemented this XYZ new initiative in the state of North Carolina. We brought on 50 people within a year. That included job descriptions, that included helping build the facilities, walking around to see exactly what duties were needed. That included training, onboarding, the laptops. That is a project from beginning to end. It is.
I
Now,
love
what
it.
people get confused is they're like, "Well, I'm doing that all the time." That is different from your normal day to day. This is a extra initiative that you're doing. And when you can identify that and put some numbers to it, that's what we look for in hiring for these projects.
And I love that you're bringing it up. It could be even if you are doing it, it's the way that you are listing it on your resume, the way you're communicating it, instead of the duties, then actually seeing the project and communicating it in that project perspective, kind of from what did you deliver, some of the key, maybe deliverables, right? Or key aspects of that project that you were in charge of.
Absolutely. So, for instance, when we're hiring for the tech team for these tech projects, a lot of times we want tech IT. We don't want the general HR, or they have to be specific and know how to hire for us. And so if they don't, we do make them part of our team. We have them come to the site so they can really see, oh, now I get why they have to be able to, lift maybe 25 pounds. Oh, now I get why the travel is needed. Like, and so they're able to write those job descriptions a little different. They're able, when they're interviewing and screening, they know exactly the people that should go to the top and get in front of the hiring manager instead of, just looking at the back system and pulling resumes. It really comes to life. And so in tech, we make those HR people a part of our team. We really do.
Love that. So, are you still doing project management yourself, or do you solely focus now on helping people get the certification?
So my full-time job is helping people get the certification, but I do like to get my feet wet. So if a amazing project comes along that I can or I do have the bandwidth, I am open to it. In addition to that, I'm starting to place individuals in project management roles because people are seeing that Tamara has the unique um workforce. She has people that are credentialed, not just in project management, in PHR. They have their Lean Six Sigma. They have Scrum certification, Agile. They have their industry certification, and they also have the project management, the PMP certification. And so companies and organizations are coming to me to help them staff their projects as well. So I'm really excited about that.
That's amazing. So how important though is the project management certification?
It is so important. It is so important. And it's just not about the piece of paper. It really says that I really understand the full methodology. So I want your listeners to think about it like this. You know, we have that toolkit in the hall closet. So if we have to repair something or put together some new furniture that we've ordered, we know we have the hammer, the wrench, the screwdriver. But every once in a while, we need a different tool.
Mhm.
And we're like, we need something else in this toolkit, or we get that drill that has a different bit, and we're like, oh my God, this works perfectly. That's what the PMP certification is, using additional tools to do things more effectively and efficiently.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
that's why you need the PMP certification. So it tells the organization that you know a little bit about a lot of things.
Mhm. I love that. And it probably kind of formalizes or structures a little bit, kind of your experience, your skills, and like you said, gives you an additional tool set uh,
Yes.
to take a look at problems, try, work through situations.
Absolutely. And let me say this, because last night and at every boot camp, by the second or third day, I get all these aha moments. And the aha moments are, "Ah, I've been doing this all along. We're just calling it something different." So I
Yeah.
love when that happens. So I had people in healthcare, I had people in logistics, I had the people that were actually in the field, the people that were behind the in the cubicle city. Last night they all realized I've been doing this for years. We're just calling it something different. And at least two people said, "No wonder I didn't get the job when I interviewed because I wasn't using the proper language. We were speaking two different languages." And so last night I was like, "Oh, they're getting it. They're getting it."
I love those moments, right? It's such a, yeah, it's a great moment for you, and also when you see something clicking for somebody else, and they can use that in their way forward. So tell us, little Tamara, was she a project manager?
Say that again?
Little Tamara, was she a project manager? Was she a boss?
So, I would say no. However, if you ask my mom, she would say yes. So, during COVID, we were all locked in, so she would come visit me while I was teaching during COVID. I was doing, like, 2 boot camps a month. I was extremely busy, and my mom would overhear me, and she was like, "Oh my god, you have always been the same." Like literally from 4 years old. So she would tell me stories on when I was very direct, and this is what we're gonna do, and this is why. And she was like, "You have always been the same." So for instance, one of my first jobs was working at the rectory. I was raised Catholic, and it was working in the church. And I was responsible for, getting the communion ready and things together for church on Sunday. But my thing was I was doing all the background work, collecting the requirements, making sure this mass runs full speed ahead, you know, executing, but not getting the credit. And so I quit. That was the first job I quit. Unless I can be an altar girl and actually get the credit and become the project manager, I'm done. And I love that job. I love working with the priests, but I could not continue to work in the background. So my mom shares stories, and I do remember that story after story. So I've always been that way. If it's not right, if women can't get the equal pay and credit, I'm out. I'm not doing it. And I probably was in the seventh or eighth grade, maybe. And I was like, I'm done.
I love it. That's awesome. And there was something else that came to me as you were speaking was how did the transition happen from you doing, being deep into project management, leading projects, to starting these boot camps and starting to train people, work with people on their project management certifications?
Well, it was I would say it's always been there, and I have a coworker that reminded me when I started the federal government, I started maybe a month or 2 before my peers, and so when the new employer orientation happened, I was actually on the agenda, and somebody raised their hand and said, "There's a mistake on the agenda." They were like, "Tamara's in the new employee orientation and she's on the agenda. Like that there has to be a mistake." And I'm like, and the person that was over was like, "Actually, there's not a mistake." They were like, "She can teach project management and the sales team and some of the other groups how to identify a project, how to bring technology or the project manager in earlier." And so I've always been a teacher in that sense within the organizations. And so there were little clues along the way. And so that happened in the federal government and some other things. And then when I was working at Delta, I did my first lunch and learn with the general managers and directors on or just a little sample project manager management and how we can implement better. And they were like, "We want you to teach our boot camp." And I was like, no. And make a long story short, they kept on because I'm like, I'm not an instructor. But at night, I was teaching at PMI Atlanta, teaching people how to, pass the PMP, go through the questions. And so some of my peers at Delta Airlines, they wore me down and they made me realize you are actually a natural born teacher. And I actually taught my first corporate boot camp at Delta Airlines. So I had 2 or 3 jobs. I was a project manager, program manager during the day. And at night, I taught my first corporate boot camp. And after that, I was like, oh, this is what I'm meant to do.
I love it. So it kind of, when you did it over and over again, something clicked for you? Like, kind of, when did that clarity come that this is what I'm meant to do?
It happened because I was working with these super experienced, intelligent engineers, but now I'm even helping them manage their projects better. And I'm like, wow, because let me tell you, like I said, these are general managers, these are engineers, this is tech ops. These people are managing our airplanes, the engines, and I'm able to contribute to their knowledge bank. And so I was like, I have to do more of this. Like, I really have something. So then I was able to really see I really do have something. And the beauty of social media, people were coming to me because they heard I had been helping people. And then COVID hit, and what happened? Contracts dried up, but then everybody wanted to upskill. And so that's when my business took off. And so I haven't been able to go back to corporate America since COVID because everybody wants their PMP, and I'm doing agile as well, and then some project management fundamentals and foundations. So this is it.
I love that. I love how you said that I haven't been able to go back to corporate America.
Because I really was trying. I was interviewing and there were so many opportunities that I would love to have, but
Mhm.
I was really like, can I do both? And to be honest, I cannot, commit to a full-time position again, but I can go into an organization and help upskill their project managers. That's the part that I love and I thrive off of.
So tell us, so how do you, maybe just an overview of how do you work with people right now, and how can people find you, connect with you, and follow you?
Yes. So they can definitely find me on LinkedIn, Tamara McLemore. They can look me up on LinkedIn. I share a lot of videos, a lot of tools and tips. And you can also come to my website at iwantmypmp.com. So again, you can come to my website, really easy to remember. iwantmypmp.com. I have a foundation of fundamentals course. You can set up a free one-on-one consultation where we go through, Tamara, I don't think I have experience. By the time you get off that call, you're like, oh, I'm doing projects all day long. And then you can get into boot camp and I can help you pass the PMP. So we have something for everybody on that website, whether you're beginner, middle, or super senior.
I love that. And can you just give an idea of how much is a PMP test? I'm assuming there's some sort of cost to eventually take it, and how long does it take to get prepared for it?
So the cost is a drop in the bucket. The cost means nothing because the tools that you get, it is a drop in the bucket compared to an MBA. I'll say that. It's a couple $100 for the exam. I think it's like $700, but that includes the PMI membership. So compared to a whole degree, it's absolutely nothing. A lot of people will say, oh, you need to study for 6, 7, 8, 9 months. That's not true. 30 days or less, you can have your PMP because I make people realize you've already been doing at least half of project management. And then I teach you the other half that you don't have. And so that's how we're able to really decrease the 6, 7, 8, 9 months of study.
I love that. And is there specific tools that one has to have, like Microsoft Project? I mean, you said that that's not necessarily something that you used even as an experienced project manager. Are there kind of must-have tools, like, found some things, or I guess it would be more technology or tools that a person would have to know?
So in project management, absolutely not, because everybody already has it. So Microsoft Project, of course, early in my career, that was the gold standard. Everybody used that. But here's the thing, you have to order your software licenses for your whole team. Now people are using Jira, Smart Sheets, but everybody's using Smart Sheets and Google, all these other tools anyway. So, like I said before, you already have it. And one of the number one tools that a lot of multi-billion dollar companies use is Excel. Because it's easy to use. You can pretty it up. Everybody can, make the columns bigger, smaller, put the company logo. So a lot of people think that project management is all about the software and these tools, and that's just not accurate. That is for a very small sector of project management. And guess what? If you don't know it, they can teach you.
And each company, like you said, probably some use Google Suite, some use Asana, some use Monday, you name it, right? There are so many tools.
Absolutely. And all my clients use all those tools and more. Absolutely.
Well, Tamara, I loved connecting with you. I am so happy that we got introduced. I'm so happy that you devoted the time to come here and talk to us and share your experience. And I can say, I think there will be a lot of people who will listen to our conversation, listen to your energy, your enthusiasm, and kind of the opportunity that's there, and will be ready to sign up to be a manager.
Thank you for having me. And that's exactly what I hope your listeners get. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here.